There's virtually no such thing as a guaranteed W in the Big 12, which is why it's going to be kind of sad to see OU leave the Big 12 because we like winning and they like to get beat by us.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things cowboy and cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at AllDayOState. Today, we're partially brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment matter more right now as the playoffs wind down. The sports kind of slows down a little bit, but this summer, FanDuel's hooking all customers up with a boost or a bonus every single day. There's something in it for everyone, every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started today. Meanwhile, we're going to shift gears into the conversation of Bedlam. As you guys have seen previously, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State are not on the same level, which is very ironic because anybody from anywhere has heard ad nauseum that Oklahoma and Oklahoma State are not on the same level, that there is seemingly a discrepancy between the two. And you know what? There is. And right now, the discrepancy between the two means that Oklahoma State is significantly ahead of OU. Traditionally speaking, people have this perception, misconception, I guess you could say, that Oklahoma dominates Oklahoma State. What they're talking about is the numerical value that every single Norman educational system seems to push through, and that is the football number. And you know what? For a long time, back before there was world wars, they did dominate. And during the course of after the World War, they dominated a decent stretch of that too. But that was then, this is now. They are gone. And it is sad to see. We won 2 of the last 3 in football, including last year's meeting. We've found a way to absolutely beat their head into the ground in baseball, winning 4 games. Women's tennis, Oklahoma State. Men's tennis, Oklahoma State. Basketball seems to be the only thing that OU seemingly was able to figure out this season, because softball, they just won a national title, but they couldn't beat Oklahoma State. Men's golf couldn't get it done. Women's golf couldn't get it done. Men's track and field, women's track and field. You can go up and down the list and have this discussion because the point total doesn't even make sense. This year, it was 21-9 in favor of Oklahoma State. So once again, for anybody out there that tries to give you this idea that Oklahoma State is inferior to Oklahoma, you just need to point them in this direction. So be a friend, help your friends out. If you hear that Oklahoma and Oklahoma State are so far apart from each other, then maybe you should ask why Oklahoma has only won the Bedlam series once out of the last decade plus. Why is that happening since OU is so inferior to Oklahoma State? This is the perception, and this is also the year to ruin that perception, because the sports that they claim matter, they couldn't beat us in this year, right? They love softball, got their butts beat by the Cowgirls. They talk about football all day, every day. They could not get past by Gundy and the Cowboys. I personally am going to be sad to see them leave the Big 12 because we do like winning, and Oklahoma has been susceptible to getting beat by Oklahoma State, especially recently. So how ironic is it that they're leaving the conference that they claim doesn't give them enough competition, yet they can't even beat their buddy up the road, or their as they like to call, little brother. How does little brother beat you up 21-9 across all sports in a season where you're preparing to leave for the SEC? Somebody make this make sense to me, or you could just tell me that it doesn't make sense. You could also tell me that this perception is in the middle of changing. This is the season for that perception to change. Softball gave us a lot of credibility. Football is the ticket. They can't beat us recently in football, so they're tucking tail and getting out of here. If I'm Mike Gundy, this is a game that I want. This is definitely not a game that I, try to avoid. But once again, because of some of Mike Gundy's comments, OU fans want to hoot and holler and pretend that Oklahoma State doesn't want to play OU because we're scared, when clearly that's not the case. We welcome the challenge. We welcome the opportunity. And I would say a decent amount of the fan base is also looking for that same opportunity to come back around in football. I think in the next 8 to 10 years, that's definitely going to happen. But I think that we'll have a pretty good shot at it beforehand due to the simple fact that marketing is going to put these two teams pitted against each other at some point in time. More often than not, the committees are going to want to put Bedlam as a matchup game in the CFP, or at least have a way that if one of them wins, they can get to a Bedlam matchup. I think that that's good for the profitability, marketability side of the CFP events. Now, the question is OU going to be good enough to get to the dance? We know that we should be, not only this year, but in the foreseeable future as well. This recruiting class is going to do nothing but accentuate that. And as you guys know good and daggone well, this last class, right? The class with Tamarick Johnson and Armstrong Nodum and Jonathan Agumadu and Gunnar Wilson and Lando Cleveland, David Kabongo, Trey Griffith, so on and so forth. That class, Mayoake Smith, I personally think is one of the best we've ever had, if not the best we've ever had. The numerical value associated with it does not give you the warm and fuzzy feeling, but when you see the production on the field and the size of the guys that are coming in pre-Rob Glass, it makes this year's class even better. When you take last year's class that is being undervalued and underappreciated right next to this year's class, I think this is just more proof that what Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy have been able to do recently in the landscape that is shifting, it's going to put Oklahoma State ahead more often. And once again, this could get better. Not getting CJ Nixon, of course, that is not fun. But as we're about to discuss in the next segment, we did bring somebody in. And, of course, this is a good get for Mike Gundy. It's a great get for Oklahoma State. But I think the addition accentuates something that we need to hit on even more. But to wrap it up, don't let anybody, especially OU fans, get around this one. Because if you do, they're just going to constantly talk about the 89, 19, 9, 7, 2.5, whatever. Remind them 21-9. Remind them of the football score, both this previous season and the last time they were in Stillwater. They've come to Stillwater 2 times to get their tails whooped both times. Or at least they had to tuck tail and run out of the stadium both times. So we welcome OU back to Stillwater, Oklahoma. I hope it's not 8 to 10 years down the road. I hope it's very, very, very soon because, again, we like winning. And OU does a pretty good job of not beating us. Therefore, bring it on. Don't let anybody fool you with the hooliganry, all right? Just like you also shouldn't get fooled. eBay Motors is going to turn your rig into the MVP, no matter what's happening in life around you. With the right passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships starts with your ride or die rig, which starts with eBay Motors. They have everything you need: superchargers, roof racks, LED lighting kits. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors is going to have you covered. With over 122 million parts to choose from, your ride or die rig gets to stay number one. With the eBay Guaranteed Fit, the part is guaranteed to fit your rig every time or your money back. With eBay Motors, the objective is to have you burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need, all the prices you want, it's very easy to turn your rig into the MVP today. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. The eBay Guaranteed Fit is for U.S. customers only. Again, go to ebaymotors.com. Keep your ride or die rig alive today. All right, we'll shift gears here. As you do know, the athlete from Berkner, the same area where we were able to swoop up Yamil Talib, Kobi Foreman is coming to Oklahoma State, but not to be a wide receiver, although he has a 10,600-meter speed and he has a plethora of yardage under his belt as a wide receiver. This seems to be a defensive get. This seems to be a Bryan Nardo guy. And what I wanted to talk about, other than the fact that Kobi Foreman brings a lot of capabilities to Oklahoma State, choosing us over teams like TCU and Arkansas and SMU, Houston, so on and so forth, we get the guy. And I think the most important factor here is, could he come to Oklahoma State and play wide receiver? Well, yes. He is the star wide receiver of his school right now, just like he was for the most part last season also. But the defensive prowess is obviously something that we're looking for. Now, here's the deal. If he was going to play wide receiver, then Casey Dunn likely would have a pretty good shot. But if he's going to play defensive back, Bryan Nardo is the guy. All of these other schools that were recruiting him wanted him most likely to have, a little bit of versatility. I know some schools did want him to play wide receiver because that's where the bulk of his film is. That's where the bulk of his current capability seems to reside. But obviously, Oklahoma State and some other schools see something on the defensive side of the ball that has piqued their interest. At 5'11", he's not necessarily the quintessential guy that we've been getting recently, but he's also shown the ability with his speed and tenacity and the ability to kind of get in different coverages and show different looks. He can play a multitude of spots, whether it be in nickel coverage. He could kind of, bulk up a little bit, scoot in there, stay on the outside. You got to have another Broderick Brown bulldog type of guy. Kobi Foreman is that get. And a lot of us, I think, for a long time thought he was going to play wide receiver, or at least thought that his next level position would also be wide receiver. This is a Bryan Nardo effect at the fullest. Kobi Foreman, has discussed, right, why he chose Oklahoma State over these several suitors, because we've been high up on his list for quite some time now. But he did go through the process, went through the visits, and gave everybody an ample amount of time and opportunities to make their pitches as to why he should choose their school. He chose Oklahoma State. And again, this is the power of Bryan Nardo. We've had this discussion before. Bryan Nardo can get in more living rooms. But when he gets in the living rooms, that's the difference. That's where we're seeing a different animal. Bryan Nardo is a whisperer, guys. And then with some of the guys that we have already committed, right, you know that Landon Cleveland was the catalyst for the previous class as far as, just kind of spreading the love. Jalen Beckley was that guy for a long time. And then you've got Michael Riles joining the club. You've got Kobi Foreman. Of course, Adam Schobel is going to continue to represent, and this is why I wanted to circle back around. Kobi Foreman fits because Bryan Nardo is the perfect guy to convince him to come to Oklahoma State. That's another reason why I don't think we should be completely out on John Schobel. I'm not going to give up until the fat lady's singing, and she ain't singing yet on John Schobel. Come join Adam. Make it a power dynamic because Oklahoma State loves our legacies. And we're building something here. I know TCU is as well. You look at their recruiting class, it's pretty daggone good, but it's not the same as what we have. It's not the same development. It's not the same intensity. It's not the same expectations. See, I think TCU is like Oklahoma State used to be, kind of content, right? Every few years popping up and making a run at a title or winning a title. But I think this is the beginning of the new age of perception for Oklahoma State. So even though the early signing period, I think, is great, this is one of those rare times where the early signing period might actually be a little bit troublesome for Oklahoma State. Once again, finishing as one of the top classes in Oklahoma State history, it seems to be already a done deal. Finishing as the top class in Oklahoma State history, still very, very possible. It's going to take a couple more big gets for that to happen. John Schobel would be a big-time flip, right? So Kobi Foreman adds another layer to what Bryan Nardo and this defensive staff are able to bring into Stillwater, Oklahoma. And this also kind of makes, losing out potentially on Coleman Patman much, much more bearable, because as much as we love Coleman Patman and we think he's going to be part of the family, should be part of the family no matter what happens, Kobi Foreman is faster. And what we're looking for on that side of the ball is always going to be speed, because we know the developmental side of things when it comes to Rob Glass is not going to be a problem. So you get Kobi Foreman here on the defensive side of the ball to go alongside this other crazy group of freshmen that we have coming up right now. This is the security of Oklahoma State's future. Just like OU is viewed in a way crazy light, as is Oklahoma State. But that perception is slowly starting to change. That perception can morph into an even bigger reality, obviously, if we have another massive. This is that season. In Bryan Nardo, we trust. Just like we trust Coach Kenny Gajewski. As we shift gears here, she gets another addition for the super squad that is forming in Stillwater. But before we talk about that, FanDuel helps you get your money right. And if you haven't got FanDuel yet, then I have to ask, what are you waiting for? We all love sports, but with the playoffs winding down, we get fewer games. And the sports, aren't as sporty as they were in the thick of the season. But FanDuel is going to let you keep all the sports going throughout the course of the summer. And we're giving all customers a boost or a bonus every single day. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Make sure you head on over to FanDuel.com/lockedon to start making the most out of your summer. Again, that is FanDuel.com/lockedon. Go there today. Make the most out of your summer because FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. We do know we've had some Cowboys making some noise in the Major League Baseball department. I love seeing what Trevor Boone's doing, Peyton Battenfield. We've got a lot of Cowboys that are about to continue this matriculation up effect. So we can see them all on the show here before too long. All right, we'll shift gears here to Cowgirl softball. We do know that they're building the super squad, the Avengers. Call it what you want to call it. We got New Mexico transfer shortstop Rachel Hattoot. We also got Amanda Hassler, the catcher from NC State. We got Riley Crandall, the pitcher from Baylor. We got Ruby Malin, the pitcher from Washington. We're talking All-American. And then Rachel Hattoot's one of the best to do it at New Mexico. It just keeps getting better. Kenny Gajewski and the Cowgirls added another transfer and Cal State Fullerton outfielder Megan Delgado. Why this is important, if you're talking about plugging gaps and filling holes, we knew we had to replace Wong, so getting a catcher made a lot of sense. We knew we potentially needed a little bit of help with the staff. We got that in Crandall and Ruby Malin. Now we have a leadoff, and she's like the quintessential tried and true leadoff. Last year, she had 44 stolen bases and just 46 attempts. So, of course, that won her the New Balance Golden Shoe Award as the nation's best base stealer. She also leads the country in suicide bunts as well. The speed is there. The eyeball test is there. She batted .417 with 86 hits and 49 runs with a .515 slugging percentage. This softball team is already so much fun to watch. The expectations that Kenny Gajewski has given to Oklahoma State Cowgirls cannot be understated. The level of transfer that we're getting should be understood. And the expectations for this coming season should now be even more understood because this is yet another gap that you have to fill. And when you have the fastest player in the game, it allows the girls behind her and the power hitters to do a little bit more. Last year, Oklahoma State could, for the most part, hit with power all the way up and down the lineup. I don't know that we necessarily had a crazy burner that was going to provide this level of ability at the one-hole spot. And in the outfield, if you have this amount of speed, you're always going to give yourself a shot. So you've got the pitchers, you've got the catcher. Now you have the one hole that can also help in the outfield to go along with this very young nucleus. This is going to be fun, but this should also be the expectation moving forward constantly for Kenny Gajewski at Oklahoma State. Unless we continue to play Captain Mess Around and not get him the full-on stadium. I love the renovations and the updates that we're doing for this upcoming season, or at least we're beginning them now. When's the man going to get the full thing? Is it going to take winning the whole thing? Because with this roster and this continuation of success in recruiting, winning the whole thing is eventually going to start becoming a more common conversation. This is the new place for Oklahoma State. You expect things in baseball. You expect things in softball. You expect big things in football. Of course, we expect big things in wrestling, which is precisely why we've made this recent move on from John Smith, who is the greatest wrestler or coach in the history of wrestling. Cale Sanderson's going to have something to say about that, of course. But he's our guy, but we had to move on. We had to bring in David Taylor, a very, very heavy hitter. You look at what is going on currently with golf. It does give you a little bit of reason for trepidation, but nonetheless, the expectations at Oklahoma State across the board are starting to I think, become more public knowledge. But only time will tell. Until next time, I think that's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, you know I love you. God bless. Go Pokes, and thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere, so happy you choose to be here. Like it if you like the daggone thing. Dislike it if you don't, because that's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast and people out there, you know what to do. Hit the stars, leave a review, because I love you. All righty, y'all. Later, taters.